Hey guys, Credible Crypto here with an update on the crypto markets. So I'm going to talk about Bitcoin mainly in this video. It's been a little bit since I made my last YouTube video in which I talked about the reason why I think that the Bitcoin bubble at 20K was not the top, why I do think that the largest bubble is yet to come. If you guys haven't yet watched that, take a look. It was my last YouTube video. I think it was the most watched YouTube video I've ever made. So definitely take a look at it if you haven't seen it yet. Today I'm going to be making a general market update talking specifically about Bitcoin and whether or not I think that the bottom is in. And if you guys have been watching my videos and keeping up with them, you guys know that I've been saying for some time now that this entire move to the downside is a buy the dip opportunity. Whether we drop to 6,000, whether we drop to 5,000, whether we drop to 4,000, what's coming next ultimately is going to be a break of 14,000 and potentially much higher. So I've been buying this dip the entire time. I've mentioned that trying to nail the exact bottom is not easy to do, and I was scaling down into longs on Bitcoin, I think as high as in the 8,000s, I believe. And everything was posted on my Twitter. If you guys are not following me there yet, follow me at Credible Crypto. But basically, guys, I think we're getting to a point here where I need to talk about whether or not I believe the bottom is in, because we did hit 6,400, and I expected the bottom to either be in this region here or up here in this region. And was definitely looking for one more leg to the downside when we got our little bounce here to the upside. So I'm going to talk about why I was looking for a leg to the upside, or like one more leg to the downside to the $5,000 area, somewhere in the mid 5Ks. What I was seeing and when I decided that we're likely not going to get that leg, at least not in the short term. So if you guys have been following me on Twitter, you know that I've been watching this channel that we've had on Bitcoin to the downside for a while now. And the key thing here, guys, the important thing to take away from this channel is that it is a larger corrective structure. We know that because the moves to the downside are corrective, not impulsive, meaning they're made up of choppy three-legged segments rather than impulsive five-legged segments as we had on this impulse to the upside. And basically, guys, corrective structures can occur in a few different ways, but essentially corrective structures can extend on and on and on, and every time they extend, what happens is we get these X waves that connect the moves to the downside, and the X waves are generally sideways moves. So for example, our W wave ended here at $9,000 and our X wave took us back up to 10,500, and then we continue down with our Y wave to 6,500. And what happens, guys, is these structures can complete at a WXY, or if the move to the upside that we get isn't of sufficient strength and can't break through the corrective structure, it essentially forms another X, and then we come back down for a Z wave. So instead of just a WXY, we get a WXYXZ to complete the correction. And as you guys can see, that would have taken us to that last leg to the downside that I was looking for. All right. So I was expecting essentially this move up to be another X wave, because it didn't move up in a very impulsive manner. And what I mean by that is we did get what looked to be a leading diagonal here. That's typically an impulsive move, but then we came back down and cleared those lows, which means that this was not an impulsive move, although it looked like one. It was actually a WXYXZ, and then we got a three-legged corrective structure, and then from this low here we got a three-legged move to the upside, followed by another three-legged move, followed by another choppy move. And so instead of getting a very clean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 off the lows, we got this series of these choppy structures. All right. So as we headed up, I was under the assumption that we're forming an X wave and we're likely to come back down for a Y wave to give us that final leg to the downside. And I mentioned, and I posted this on Twitter, that the only thing that would change my mind about that is if we had a break of this corrective structure, right? If we had a break of this corrective channel. As we know, corrective structures typically channel very well and typically do not break out of these channels in an impulsive manner. So I mentioned that if we manage to get a break above the channel high, then I'll have to switch to a bullish bias, and I would have to assume that the low was put in here at 6.4K. Now I'm going to talk about two scenarios here, guys, from where we are now. One in which the 6.4K low was the absolute low before we break 14K, and one in which the 6.4K low was not the absolute low, in which we do have potentially one more leg to the downside. And then I'll talk about which of those two scenarios I find to be most likely. All right. So So key here is that we did break out of this channel. As you guys can see, we broke out of it, retested as support, and we're now pushing back up again. These red lines that I have marked off here are just key resistance levels that I'd expect us to find some resistance at. And then this is really where Bitcoin needs to prove itself. If we are bullish, we need to break through this region here between 9.8 to 10.5K. As a reminder, guys, this region is that major weekly region that we broke down from, right, after consolidating for a matter of months, right? We broke down from this level and retested as resistance right here, and then we fell even lower. So this is really the key level that I want to see us break above, right? I think we can push as high as that level, but ultimately, if we're bullish, we need to get through it, and if not, we could see one of the two scenarios that I'm about to talk about, all right? Now, the two scenarios that I'm going to talk about, guys, here they are, all right? And the only reason I have two scenarios here and why I can't confidently say that the bottom is absolutely in is because of the way we've moved up here in what looks to be a more corrective manner, all right? It could be wrong and it could be an impulsive move, but just based off of the wave structure and these three-legged moves, it looks corrective, sorry, not impulsive. So because of that, if this was an impulsive move, I'd say bottom is in for sure. But because it's corrective, it makes it a little bit tricky in that we could have a potential bottom in, or we may not have that bottom in just yet. We may still get that final leg to the downside, all right? Now, here are the two scenarios. We're going to start off with the first scenario in which the low is not yet in, all right? In this scenario, we will make a new low, and this is essentially what I'm looking at, guys. So we know that this WXY is likely completed. This corrective structure is likely completed because we got a breakout of the corrective channel. However, now that we've gotten a breakout of the corrective channel, because it doesn't look like it was an impulsive move, what we could be forming here is essentially another WXY, similar to this one, another corrective structure to the upside, all right, before getting another corrective structure back to the downside to clear these lows. And essentially what we have here is a double zigzag, right? So a WXY, an X wave, and then another WXY to bring us down to the lows, all right? And then we'd have completed a correction, and from there, we would get an impulsive move to the upside that would clear the highs at 14K, all right? Still, bottom line, we're going to clear 14K before we make new lows with either of these scenarios, right? So essentially, this is just another buy the dip opportunity. If we get it, you'll get a chance to buy 5Ks maybe if this happens before we go to 14K. Every dip at this point is a buy the dip opportunity, essentially, in my eyes, right? So this would be the bearish scenario in which we could still potentially make a lower low because this move up off the lows was not clearly an impulsive move. It leaves the gate open for one more potential low to be put in, all right? And then the next scenario, in this particular scenario, the low is in, all right? 6.4K was the lowest that we're going to go, and from here we're going to break 14K next, and eventually break all-time highs and continue higher, all right? And in this particular scenario, I'm going to clear some of this stuff up just to make things a little bit easier to see. In this particular scenario, where the low is in, what we could be forming here that could still explain the corrective move off the lows is still a larger corrective structure that we're forming here. In this case, a flat. This could be a running flat, or it could be an expanded flat. In either scenario, this move to the upside would be expected to be a corrective structure. All right. So maybe we clear the highs here at 14K, reject, come back down, and we'd form a running flat in this case. And then from here, we would then get an impulse to match this leg to the upside. All right. So then we would get an impulsive move to the upside. Okay. That would be a clean five-legged move after we complete this essentially consolidation phase, right? So this is a scenario in which 6.4K is the bottom, all right? After we complete this, we never dip back down to 6.4K. We probably break above that key weekly region at between 9.7 and 10.5K, retest it from above as support, probably go as low as 9.8K, and then continue to push to the upside for continuation, all right? And this scenario is also very viable. The key is that both of these scenarios have us moving up in a corrective structure, right? So in either scenario, I don't quite think that we're starting this type of an impulse move just yet. I still think that whatever we're doing here is going to be corrective, and we're essentially going to chop sideways for a period of time, for a period of months, before we actually start the next major impulse to the upside, all right? And there's a few reasons for this, but one of the major reasons is I don't feel like we've had enough time consolidating after our last blow off top to justify breaking new highs already and continuing to the upside. It's possible that we do, but from a high time frame perspective, if we take a look at like the Brave New Coin Index and stuff like that, it doesn't quite look like we're ready for another 5-way move to the upside just yet. All right. Not saying that it can't happen. It just doesn't seem like we're quite ready yet in my eyes. All right, guys, and now I'm going to talk to you guys about what I see as most likely here, right? So as much as I want us to get one more leg down, and even I had lower leverage longs that were waiting to be filled right under 64.86. I had them from 6,000 to 6,350 or something like that, and they never got filled. So I missed out on filling my longs there because I was looking for a little bit lower. And as much as I want us to make another leg down, we don't get what we want, especially markets like these. It would be a dream to fill bids at $5,000, and we could get it, but it's of course not guaranteed. Here's what I'm seeing that does make me believe that this may actually have been our low. All right. If we take a look at the monthly charts, and I have another chart that I posted on my Twitter that depicts this a little bit better, and actually I'll go ahead and share that with you guys right here. All right, guys, so here's that monthly chart that I have shared on Twitter, and I've been tracking this essentially since we were up here at 9K about 3 months ago, right? And I mentioned in the original post that this looks like a retest similar to what we had here, and it seems likely to me that the bottom is not yet in, and we're likely to retest the $6,400 level, reestablish it as support before continuing higher and breaking to the upside. So fast forward 3 months, and that's exactly what we've done now. We've rejected here, retested 6.4 to the dot actually, and have now pushed back up to the top of the range. So monthly close above this level would be very bullish and would further solidify that the low is likely in my opinion. All right, but yeah, we perfectly retested this breakout level with just a touch. Everyone wanted to buy this level, so it's not surprising that we sort of front ran 6K. With this test at 6.4K, and we were just there for a second before we popped up. So those that were waiting for another low, myself included, to fill leverage longs, we never got filled, and we pumped up back to 9K. Now, of course, I'm fully loaded on spot, so for me, it's not a huge deal. Would have loved to fill some leverage longs, but I'll take whatever I can get. So then this is also why I always say to scale in times like these, because we never know when the bottom is going to hit, and you could miss it real quick. So if you're waiting for the absolute bottom to buy any spot, either you film it in a lot higher or you're still waiting, which is unfortunate, guys. It's just a lesson to learn to scale in. I learned it a long time ago, so I definitely followed my own rules this time and scaled in all the way here. So I'm holding a lot of crypto right now, although I wasn't able to get my leverage longs filled because I was looking for a little bit lower here. Anyways, this is the chart that I'm looking at, guys. So monthly close above this level, and I'd have to be even more confident that the bottom is likely in. I don't think that we revisit this level if we do get a high time frame close above this region, which is very bullish. Now taking a look at some other things, guys. Some reasons why I do believe it's possible the bottom is in is the way that major alts look at this point in time. So I'm going to show you guys some alts and what they're doing that makes me think that, at least for alts, for some of the alts, I think the bottom is definitely in. Whether that translates to Bitcoin bottom being in or not is up for debate. But let's take a look at some key alts here. So here's Monero, guys. Monero is actually very interesting because it actually sort of foreshadowed what Bitcoin is going to do. We had the same downtrending channel in Monero, the same type of move, and we actually broke out of it a lot earlier than when Bitcoin broke out. So as soon as Monero broke out of this downtrend channel right here, that sort of told me that, all right, Monero has likely finished its correction, is likely finished correcting the move from $37 to $119. It's likely now going to continue to move up. And so that happened before Bitcoin, while Bitcoin was still in its channel, and it kind of made me a little bit cautious about thinking that we're going to get another leg down. And of course, now it's been confirmed now that Bitcoin is broken up, that for the short term at least, I don't think we're going to get one more leg down. But guys, Monero has done the same thing. It's hit this level here at 43 and is almost doubled now to 71. Broken out of the downtrend channel, has now started its next move to the upside on high volume. All right, this next one is pretty impressive to say the least, guys. Dash, I'm sure you guys have now heard of it at this point in time if you're part of the crypto Twitter community, because everyone was talking about it when it pumped off of its lows at $40 and hit a whopping 160. That's about a 4 times multiple off the low. Also, guys, take a look at the volume. That is massive volume. I'm going to zoom out here to the weekly, just to give you guys an idea of how much volume is coming in here, all right? Now, this is on Kraken Exchange. It looks exactly the same on Binance. But ever since our highs, at 1600, we have not seen this type of volume flow in ever, right? So we've been dropping, and volume has been building here during what I would assume to be accumulation. This is the non-log scale volume building as people were accumulating at these levels, and we got a massive, massive spike in volume here that's visible on more exchanges than just Kraken. So it's not an anomaly to this exchange only, but basically, guys, we got a major move on high volume. This is the type of stuff we like to see when a bottom is likely in. We also had bullish divergences forming as well. On some of the like 3-day and daily timeframes, and that's another key contributor to why I think that the bottom is likely in here for Dash. We absolutely, I mean, it's a pretty big wick here, and we'll probably retrace quite a bit here, but if we go down to the lower timeframes, we can actually see what looks to be a pretty clear 5-wave impulsive move here off the lows. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, an extended fifth. That is a pretty clean impulsive move, guys. We go to the even lower timeframes, it's even more visible here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an extended fifth, right? Very clean impulsive move off the lows, which makes me believe that the low for Dash is in. And so because the low for some of these alts could very well be in, it's also possible that the low for Bitcoin is in, all right? Now there's still a scenario in which Bitcoin makes another low. Again, I think that alts are going to run in the coming months a lot more than Bitcoin will. While Bitcoin moves sideways, essentially, I think this is when Bitcoin dominance is going to take a major hit, guys. Bitcoin dominance is just starting to curl over here, and I think we're essentially going to dip here for a few months while alts rally, and then once Bitcoin gets ready to break all-time highs again and makes that next impulse that we're looking for, I think we're going to break this again one more time to the upside, and then this will eventually come back down and settle down at these levels for a very long time. But guys, the point I'm trying to make here is it's time for alts to shine, in my opinion. Bitcoin dominance will take a little bit of a breather until we get prepped for that new impulse. And again, many of these alts are making the same types of massively, strong moves to the upside here. So I think the low for a lot of these alts is definitely in, which also leads me to believe that the low for Bitcoin could very well be in. So that is all I have for this update, guys. This is what I wanted to talk about. And I've been mentioning on Twitter that I think that the local bottom is in. And the reason I kept saying local was because of this one scenario that I do think is still very viable that could have us making lower lows. However, there's a high likelihood this doesn't pan out. Many alts have already hit their bottoms, in my opinion. So there's a chance that Bitcoin has already bottomed. And if that's the case, then we're looking at something like the alternate scenario I proposed that has us having already made the low. So just to keep in mind, guys, nothing is guaranteed in these markets. Everything is based upon our analysis, and as new information comes in, we have to update our bias or change our bias along with it. So as much as I wanted to believe we're getting another leg down, and if you guys have been following me, as soon as we broke and closed above this channel, I had to change my bias to bullish and reevaluate and come to this conclusion that the bottom may actually be in. So this is all I have for this update video, guys. I hope that explained to you guys what my thoughts were, or currently are, and why I think that the bottom may be in, but why I think that it's possible to make one more lower low, and I really don't know either way what's going to happen. But what I do know is that it's a great time to be in alts. Many of them have made their lows and are likely going to pump massively in the coming months. So that's all I have for this update, guys. As always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right, thanks, guys.